Aston Martin, it doesn't look like well, rumours has it that they're not going to be ready for pre-season testing.
And it's not surprising, really. We've mentioned before that it does come across an awful lot like the guys that were in charge there just have no backbone and
Yeah.
were very in the initial meeting with
Lawrence.
Lawrence Stroll.
Yeah.
He came in, sat down, said, "Right, you've got me until 12:30. Go." And that kind of threw him off the bat straight away. We've got a race car, and they just really didn't know how to handle it. And as I've mentioned before, you've got engineers and you've got salesmen, and they clearly aren't salesmen, and they're clearly looking to him for direction. Whereas his direction is, here's the money, make it work.
Yeah.
And I don't really think they were prepared for that. I think they're very much kind of just engineers and smart people that need to be told what they need to do next.
Yeah. I think coming off the back of how the team has operated under Racing Point, Stroll. Stroll at the end of the day, he's in it to win. He wants a team that's going to take home a constructors' championship, and he wants to see his son basically as an F1 world champion. But I think perhaps he's going about it the wrong way, because he's recruited a lot of engineers from different teams and everything, and apparently the teams if not doubled in size, quadrupled in size, and it's probably a case of just having so much.
It's gone from a family team to a corporate beast.
Yeah, absolutely, to a corporate beast. And the problem is that I think they're all. I'm not sure whether it's a case is that nobody knows, who they're running to or who they're answering to.
You can't take on 200 new employees and expect things to run like clockwork. Everyone's got to find their rhythm. I think it's probably going to be 2 or 3 seasons before you see them even starting to compete with the likes of with Red Bull and other such teams. I might be surprised. I don't know, but it looks like the guy Knack saw it coming and sodded off pretty quickly.
Yeah, Osner. Yeah. There was speculation about Osner leaving as well, because they kind of, he's a Otmar even. Jesus Christ, I've just had to look as he said. He's a big Sebastian Vettel boy, and I think there's disagreements about having him as kind of like the lead driver for Aston Martin as well. He'd been with the team for 10 years when they were forced into it in Racing Point, and so he'd seen a lot of shit go through that team, and it just seems paradoxical that when the team is super financially sound, beyond financial sound that it's ever been, that it's started to crack, especially coming into the 2022 season.
With financial soundness comes the pressure of responsibility.
Yeah.
Because before they've had to make do with things on a shoestring. Now they've got no excuse. They've got no, we didn't have this because of this, and that's fair enough, we couldn't afford one of them. But now it's right. Here's what you need, make it happen. And what do we blame? For anybody who does tune into this and does watch and does listen, we're not professionals. We're just a couple of blokes chatting about Formula One. I don't know half the people's names, but I can formulate opinions based on Drive to Survive and an extensive knowledge in taking the piss. So that's that. I think I'd like to see him do well. I think Sebastian Vettel is very much on his end run.
Don't say that. That will make me and anybody that is watching sad, because he's popular.
He is though. He went Red Bull world champion, Ferrari. They were expecting a world championship, to the Aston Martin team, and
let us know how it feels.
This is it. But the same thing happened with Fernando Alonso. He won his titles with Renault. You know, and then there was the Ferrari run, nothing happened there, and it just seems like there is this Ferrari curse that a driver will go to Ferrari and it just won't happen for them. And you know, I watched the seasons with Vettel and Ferrari, and there was times he got close, but just I don't know whether it was a case of nerves or just the car. Eventually, there was just so many different things that essentially happened that didn't let him have that run. And I mean, I'm glad that he's found a home at Aston Martin. I mean, he's now kind of become everybody's favourite because he's just such a humble dude, and everybody loves it. You know what I mean? So it would be a shame to see him go. But I think he could go into. Oh,
is he though?
The wisdom.
I don't know. I'd like to see. I'd like to see. I'm very much a fan of an underdog, which is why I'm racing for Red Bull on F1 2021. But I think realistically,
let's get a few laps under our belt.
A few seasons to iron out its kinks in the office before it can even start to think about the track, really. I mean, and that's part and parcel of becoming a corporate beast, you know, and especially overnight.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, in any case, the biggest problem is that Racing Point has had some really good years because, you know, as Drive to Survive has put it, the Racing Point team and the Force India team before it were extremely well known for getting maximum results out of very, very little. Engineer quiet.
Say that again, we're having trouble receiving.
Motherfucker.
Oh, that's a good point.
Engineer quiet.
Engineer quiet?
Copy.
There we go. So they managed to get like maximum results.
Engineer quiet. He didn't receive it the first time. He couldn't believe I told him to shut up. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, they did. They did very well on a very stringent budget.
Yeah, and then like you say, you could throw everything you wanted at the Aston Martin car last year, 2021. And it just was underwhelming from what it had. And it's paradoxical. Imagine having a team that's now got all the money that it could want, and it's just completely underwhelmed in regards to what should have been expected. I mean, you could imagine that Stroll was fucking raging last year with how it went. And then, you know, I wouldn't want to be in one of the board meetings for what's going on now. Especially if you've only got 15 minutes to tell what the fuck's wrong.
Money does not make a good team. Look at McLaren, look at Ferrari. I mean, as Niki Lauda said in Rush, I don't believe it. You have all these fantastic facilities, all this money, and you make a piece of shit car like this. You know, it's at the end of the day, it's a culmination of all these things, and it's. I'm a huge believer in that. You can have all the money in the world if you haven't got the right people that work together well, and you can have all the right people, but they just won't work to take a football team. You know, you could take all the star players from England, put them in a team together, and they still won't win the World Cup.
Well, that's what's happened for the past 60 odd years, isn't it?
Well, this is it, isn't it? It's just because there's an amazing amount of talent, it doesn't mean that they'll work well together. You get a lot of ego in an environment like that, and no team players. Whereas the previous teams would have been invested to work well together to sort of maximise their strengths together, rather than trying to sort of outshine one another, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure.
It's I don't know. I'd like to see him do well. In a perfect world, you know, which has become a perfect world for them financially, they would do very well, but I don't see it happening. I don't see them becoming the next Red Bull, and I think that's what Lawrence Stroll has set out to do. I think he's gone, well, it's worked for them, because Red Bull, like, you know, Christian Horner quite rightly said before, they make energy drinks. It's very much a marketing team, whereas you can take someone like Lawrence Stroll, go, well, you know, I'm comparative to Red Bull's funding, I can do the same. So just logically, it should be relatively easy to do, but again, having the right people that work well together.
We'll receive you at the end of this lap.
Who knows? Remains to be seen. Be interesting to see anyway. But
yeah,
after having read that they there's insiders leaking out information saying that they're not going to be ready for the first test. That's
really
bad.
It is really bad. I mean, sure. I mean, it's like the whole, for the gamers out there, which no doubt they're aware of the Blizzard Activision issues with what was going on in offices there, and just every single email that was being sent by any Tom, Dick or Harry was being leaked out. There's got to be.
That shows an unhappy workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? Which is obviously the case at Aston Martin. And the thing is, though, is that when you've got more people, how can you vet all of them? You know what I mean? If you're just chucking people together, it's a case of that. The larger the workforce, the more that you've got to kind of.
I mean, you might just have a really savvy cleaner that knows how to get on the computers. you don't know who it is feeding this information out. But for the information to have leaked out that Aston Martin are nowhere near ready to even run the test in February, is kind of business critical, you would think.
Yeah.
I would be putting a lot of time and effort into finding this person and making sure that,
they're fired.
in the nicest possible terms, they don't do it again.
Yeah, I mean it's a breach, isn't it? Isn't it? You know what I mean? We've worked for businesses. We get emails, and I mean, firstly, I wouldn't bother about sharing any that I have, but I mean it is obviously.
No?
It's that's a major.
Shut up, John!
But,
which company do you work for? A major one.
So it's yeah. I mean,
moving swiftly on.
Yeah, I mean, working. It is a case of there's been a breach, and I can't imagine it'll go back. No doubt it's gotten back to Lawrence, and he'll be going apeshit. You know what I mean? Not only is somebody leaking information, but he's saying that the team is just not up to scratch. And the last team that wasn't ready for this was Williams, and Williams very much has been for quite a while an underdog team. The funding wasn't it Williams had the wind tunnel that they couldn't use for 3 years? Is that right?
It was maybe Williams. There's a part of me telling me it might be McLaren actually.
I wouldn't think it's McLaren. I'd be tempted to say it's more Williams with that. I can't recall. We'll find out when we start reviewing the Drive to Survive. But yeah, I mean. When people are going to start making that reference that you're like Williams that wasn't ready, that's not good for a billionaire. Do you know what I mean? That makes him look like just incapable of running things, and he's obviously a very proud intimidating man.
Here's the thing: it's not just him, because it was a investing consortium that bought out to Force India.
Because I know that I think he owns 16-17%, which is the largest stake, I believe.
So there's other people who even he has to answer to.
Yeah, true.
And let's be fair. I mean, in fairness to him though, sort of whatever he may be like as a person or anything, he loves his son. Wow. Daddy, I want to be a Formula 1 driver. Okay, well, let's go and buy a Formula 1 team. That's like, I really like gaming. It took me years to get a computer.
That was it. I mean, all my friends had a Super Nintendo. It wasn't until 97 when we were talking about V-Rally. It wasn't until 97 before I got my first computer, and that was PlayStation 1. You know what I mean? But I grew up on the Atari and Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Sega. It's just I never owned one. You know what I mean?
Life was hard in Scotland.
It was hard everywhere, mate.
Well, so it's not looking good for Aston Martin at the moment. But then they might come out the gates. You never know. There could be someone feeding all this saying. There could be someone saying, "Tell the media this. Tell the media this."
Yep. Yeah.
And then out the gates comes a stonking performance from an amazing car.
Yeah.
And a well-oiled machine. So
yeah, I mean the news itself isn't. I mean the news itself isn't official news. You know what I mean? you don't know whether it's 100% there.
You haven't got the full picture.
Yeah. And like you say, it could be a case of that. I mean, Mercedes have done it time again, saying the car's not where it's at, or Hamilton's always been bad for it. You'll go into qualifying saying, I don't think the car's really there, and then he pulls out like an unbelievable pole run, and then or he gets at the race and he's like, I'm not sure about the car, I'm not sure about the and he just absolutely obliterates it. You know what I mean? It could just be a complete throw-off tactic. In today's day and age, wouldn't surprise me if it was.
I mean, he does like a moan, doesn't he?